All right, I'd like to welcome Mitch Hildebrandt to We Are Soccer today. Mitch grew up in Livonia, played college soccer at Oakland University. He finished at Oakland with 249 saves and 19 clean sheets. Mitch was quite the college soccer player. I watched a couple of his games, and he went on from there to play professionally. But before we jump into that, why don't we say hello to Mitch? Mitch, how you doing, buddy?
Great, man. Hey, cheers. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Cheers. Thanks for being with us. So, if you've watched any of the previous episodes, you'll notice a reoccurring theme in the first couple of Detroit soccer legends. Several of us have named you as one of those because, to be honest, you've done what a lot of us were aspiring to do, right? You played youth soccer, you went to college, you then played pro, and you made it all the way up into the MLS. The tip of the spear in American soccer, MLS. So it's awesome to see, and it's even better because I've played against you several times, and I hate playing against you. By the way,
On me a couple times too.
Oh, well, just a couple, but I mean, I always hated it when I showed up. I'm like, are you kidding me? Is he here again? Are you kidding me? Put an L in the column there. Well, let's jump in. Let's talk about when you started pro. You joined Minnesota Stars FC in 2012, correct?
Yeah, that was my first professional contract coming out of college. It was tough, man, because I wasn't drafted into the MLS, so it was kind of like, what are you going to do? And the roads in soccer in this country, although getting better, I don't want to sound old, but 7-8 years ago, even then, it was very tough. So, packing up my car and going around to trials and sleeping on couches and hoping that I get signed somewhere was kind of the trick of the trade. And luckily, I'm very, very fortunate that I was signed and I spent 4 years there.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you came back to Michigan a few times and we talked about it, and you were telling me kind of how it was going and the ups and the downs and the change in, I think, management that happened a few times. So you really worked your socks off because from there you jumped in and joined FC Cincinnati, correct?
Yeah, that was a funny story. So Minnesota, it was tough. The change in ownership, and they were going to the MLS, and I wasn't the first first string goalkeeper, first choice. And so in 4 years, I got like 16 games, and in a professional season, you're playing 35, 40 games.
Right.
So it was really tough mentally because I knew that, especially for a young goalkeeper, you need to get games. And so I was worried that after my contract was done, maybe I wouldn't get another opportunity. And it's, for the young soccer players that always ask me, I always say, you never know who's watching. So I was very, very fortunate enough to just out of the blue. And this was kind of like my star-studded moment, man. Like, you want to talk about star-studded moment. John Harkes, U.S. soccer legend.
Yeah.
Calls me at, I swear, calls me at 4 a.m. And it wakes me up. And I was like, hello,
Did you know it was him? Like, did you have his number in your phone?
No.
Okay.
Normally I don't answer phone calls. For some reason, I answer the phone, and he's like, "Hey, Mitch, John Harkes." And I go, no. And he goes, no, it really is. I'm sorry. He's like, I've been in Europe recruiting, and I just had to call you. And so somebody had told him about me, and then they watched film, and and then I was lucky enough to get signed to Cincinnati, and I had 2 really, really good years there. But you just never know who's watching, and that was kind of like, I called my wife, actually. She was away on a volleyball trip, and I called her at 4:30, and I was like, you'll never believe who called me. And she goes, who called you? And I was like, oh wait, why am I saying this? You don't even know who it is.
But man, that is so awesome. Like, so he's out recruiting. Someone's told him about you. He's watched tape and decided, I don't care what time it is, I'm calling this guy and I'm getting him.
Yeah, exactly. And I was one of the first 3 signings in club history, behind like a Cincinnati soccer. Like, he was from Cincinnati. He was the first ever signing, and then Kenny Walker, who's from Cleveland. He had a great career in the MLS, and then me.
Wow.
And it was surreal, man, to have John Harkes call me out of the blue. And I grew up watching. I grew up. It'd be like today's kids. I don't even know who would
Yeah, I don't even know who it would be comparable to, but I mean,
Donovan maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe Donovan because they kind of know
Donovan, Dempsey,
yeah.
Tim Howard.
Yep. So your time in FC in FC Cincinnati, you said you had 2 years there. You had 61 appearances. You received, now this I remember, man, I remember watching this. You received national attention for your performance in the 2017 U.S. Open Cup semifinal against Chicago Fire, right? You made 3 saves in that penalty shootout. Dude, I remember watching that being like, oh my God, I played against this guy, I played with him. This is, man, I don't know what was more awesome. The fact that you saved 3 penalties and absolutely killed it, or the fact that every time you made a save that Mitch says no, chant went up, man. I mean, that was so cool.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to have a really good relationship with the fans in Cincinnati, and that chant kind of came out of the blue. And on a night like that, it was pretty surreal. It was one of those games you talk about where it's like you just play. We weren't expected to win, and I always joke around with people. I actually had a pretty good game besides those 3 saves, but everybody
always goes straight to that, right?
We always go straight to that. It's like, but no, it was fun. And actually, like, it's funny because the only person that scored on me in the shootout is Bastian Schweinsteiger, right?
World Cup winner. So
the guy shoots it down the middle. So I guess, if anybody wants to shoot it down the middle, you can't really say much about it.
No, I agree. I mean, but yeah, World Cup winner. He's you can't really do much about that, right?
No, he's all right.
But in a penalty shootout, I know from being in penalty shootouts, you ask your goalkeeper to save 1. Like, listen, buddy, you save 1, they'll miss 1. Hopefully, we'll get past their keeper and we'll put them in and we'll win. But you saved 3. I mean, that doesn't happen. That does not happen. So cool.
Yeah, it was a good night. Yeah, it was fun.
Do you have the paper clippings or anything to remember that night by?
Yeah, I have. I think we have the paper, and there's an interview that we have saved, and just the night and everything. It was a pretty cool experience.
I'm sure, man. That is, I remember watching it and just was so thrilled for you. As most of us, I mean, the bunch of the guys here, we were all texting, and the next day when we met up, we were like, can you believe it? That is so cool. We were living vicariously through you. As I said, you did what a lot of us wanted to do. I had aspirations of playing at that level, but never really followed through and never happened. So, we were just so happy for you.
I appreciate it, man. I mean, you could have played, I mean, anybody, but you could have played. It's just, I was fortunate enough to get opportunities and
well, you say that, but you also, like you said, you slept on couches, you got in your car and you drove, and for 3 or 4 years you sat and you worked, and that opportunity came. A lot of people aren't willing to do that. So I don't want to put luck in there. That was earned, man. It was earned to the level you got to. So you called it a lucky break. I call it you earned it. You paved your own way, man. So that's kudos. So I want to jump in and obviously you're a former MLS goalkeeper. That's what people that's what people want to know, want to see, and want to hear, right? So you actually signed with Atlanta United in MLS after being in Cincinnati. Tell us about how that came about and what that was like.
Yeah, dude, that was when I got the call from my agent. It was one of those things where I almost broke down, because I called my wife, and, so many sacrifices, and, I was away from my wife for 4 years, while I played. And then she left the job that she liked to move with me to Cincinnati. And, it's just like, friends and family helped me. And
yep.
So to finally get to the point where I've been striving for 6 years, it was just a surreal, I mean, it was it was one of those things where you can't really put into words. And so, my agent's like, what do you want to do? Because I could have stayed in Cincinnati, and we had a really good thing going. And I was like, no, like, let's go. You don't know if you're going to get hurt the next day. You don't know, you don't know what's going to happen. And Atlanta United is the premier in MLS now. So to get a call from them was, and I don't know if you know about the, different rules in MLS, but they put a discovery claim on me. So that means that they really wanted me. So no other MLS team could have signed me.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah. So that really made it like, they really wanted me to come, which made me, as a player of any sport, you want to go to a place where you're wanted. And so, my wife and I, we packed up the car and we spent 2 days in Atlanta, and we bought a house and we moved down there, and we started a whole new journey.
Oh man, that's again crazy. That's the dream. I mean, so a big shout out to your wife, who's been through a lot, and to travel with you and watch you kind of live that dream that you've wanted to get to. So that's awesome that she was willing to do that, because a lot of guys who are doing that their wives don't, they can't handle it, right? There's a lot that goes into that in the family, and and also your family back home who are rooting for you and probably letting you just kind of try to live that dream, and it worked out. I mean, you're right. I would have can't blame you if you wanted to break down, because you're right, that phone call comes in, whoo, big time, man, big time.
Yeah, I mean, just so many. When you talk about I mean, my brother let me come back and live with him in the off season because I couldn't afford to keep my apartment. And,
right.
He helped me out if I needed money or a plane ticket during trials. And then my wife, dealing with moving around all these different places and
right.
Not knowing what's going to happen. Because, I mean, soccer contracts aren't like normal contracts. They're year by year. You have club options where you don't know if they're going to get picked up or not. And so to go by year and, for her to, do all that. I mean, she's a legend, man. I've been very fortunate enough to have family and friends and support system behind me.
Good. Well, I mean, that's awesome to hear. You got to have that in order to make it, right? So you were in Atlanta for 2 years, and then you kind of parted ways with Atlanta, and then announced your retirement. How was the time in Atlanta? How was it, with the boys and the team? Was it cool? Was it good? Everything got along? You didn't get too much playing time. Can you kind of just delve into that for a minute or two? Yeah,
I think that was tough for me mentally, because you go from playing every single minute for your club for 2 years, and then you go and you don't play a single minute. I got some reserve team minutes, which was nice. But I mean, it's always tough to get minutes against, the U.S. national team goalkeeper when he's the first choice. So, which, being a Villa fan, Brad pretty well.
Yep.
But, I think the overall, I did a lot more things besides just playing in the game, like, for instance, like you said, did we get along? I mean, this group of guys, this locker room, we won an MLS Cup in 2018. And in order to do that, you need guys that, like you said, get along. I mean, Joseph Martinez, Miguel Almiron, who's with Newcastle now,
yep.
Best player I've ever played with or played against. I mean, the guy's absolutely insane. But these guys are the nicest people in the world, and everybody came in. It doesn't matter if you're 1 or 30 on the roster, and you just have fun and playing for Tata, who's now, Barcelona. Now he's the Mexican national team coach, so I learned a lot about the game, and I took so many positives out. I learned more about myself. I learned more about my marriage. We learned more about the game, so there were so many positives that came out of it. Not just game time or game minutes, but friendships and an MLS Cup. And it was probably one of my best years as a professional, for sure.
I mean, the fact that you didn't play and you're still saying that says a lot about what you learned and the group you're with. And I know that, in order for a team to win, it's not just on the field, it's a lot of off the field stuff. I remember you and I talking a year or two ago, and you were telling me about some of the guys on the team and how cool they were. I think, I was asking at the time, specifically about Brad Guzan, because obviously being a huge Villa fan.
Right.
And you just told me he was such a cool guy, and he kind of took you in and his family, and you and your wife got to know him and his wife, and how cool that was. I mean, it says a lot about you, the fact that you didn't play, but it was still one of the best years that you had professionally.
Yeah, I mean, I knew what I was getting when I was going into it. I knew that, opportunities were going to be sparing. But it's, when Atlanta United calls for you to come and play, you go and you sign the contract. And I think if I would have had that opportunity earlier in my career, it would have been, unbelievable, because I would have taken that on to, keep playing.
Right.
It was, but to have it at the end of my career, and I got to play the U.S. Men's national team goalkeeper coach. He was our goalkeeper coach at the time. And, we still talk, and just friendships and connections. And everything is,
Right.
Carlos Bocanegra was our sporting director, another U.S. soccer legend. So I got to
Big
get to
name,
know him. Just everything about it, it was, you got to live in the moment. And I think for the first time in my professional career that year, I was trying to live in the moment. And I wish I would have done it the previous 6.
Wow. I mean, you made the most of it. So after that, like you said, we parted ways, and you kind of retired, right? And now you've joined Sporting Kansas City, correct? And you're in a scouting role for the MLS, for them in the MLS. How's that going? You enjoying that?
Yeah, man, I love it. I mean, this is the job that I wanted to do when I was playing. I never really saw myself as a coach. Last year I did do the goalkeepers for our second team. So I got into a coaching role, but then again, away from the wife. So that needed to end. And now I'm in a scouting role, and doing more of the player identification stuff, which is what I really wanted to do, and which I really have a passion for. So, I think, like you do, and all your viewers, I just sit there and watch soccer games all day.
Yeah, man. It's great to sit and watch soccer,
so it's
right?
living the dream, for sure.
So let's.
Yeah, it sucks when you have to be. It sucks when you have to be fully, tuned in to everything. You can't just watch the game, but it's still fun.
I'm sure. So are you watching a lot of MLS games specifically, or the lower levels, trying to identify players who could be moving up into the MLS? Is that kind of what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, so my primary role is college identification. So I'm watching pretty much every college player that's playing right now. Obviously, it's the busy season for the spring, and then there's another one in the fall. So doing that. I do watch a little bit, or when I was coaching for Sporting in the second team, I was watching all the USL games, because we had to identify players, and I was watching a lot of MLS, and this kind of full round. But right now it's full college, and doing that stuff for the draft. And
I mean, that's big time. That's where it's at. It's getting these younger kids who are playing in college and playing at the lower levels and getting them up, right? And that's where, instead of having to go buy or get a player from Europe who's on the tail end of their career, right? And that's what in my opinion, the MLS has come a long way, even in the last 4 or 5 years, to getting these players and grooming them up, right? Like Daryl DK, who's now in England playing for Barnsley on loan. A player who's grown up, went to college, came through. And so, yeah, that's a big role you're taking on. That's awesome to hear, man.
Because scouting within the academy system is so important nowadays because of the homegrown rules. So, there's players that are moving across country now in the MLS like they are in Europe. So I think if Christian Pulisic would have been 10 years old now, he probably would still be in the MLS system rather than over at Dortmund or now at Chelsea.
Right.
So we're making strides, I think, with that, which is, I think, more important than, buying the guys, coming over. Even though we're becoming a selling league, which is big. I mean, you have Miguel Almiron who's gone. You have all these players that are coming here to go to Europe instead of, going from Europe to here. So that's a big time. And you talked about Daryl. I mean, yeah, Daryl was a college player. He was drafted from Virginia, and so you're always looking for those diamonds in a rough.
Right. And it's a tough thing to do, but trust me, I've done it where you go out and watch a kid's game and you're like, I'm hoping to pick someone. And you always there's always someone in a game. You're like, that guy's the star of the game or whatever it is. Even at a 10-year-old level, you're like, that kid's good. Watch away. So you and I kind of have that same brain, and it's awesome. You're doing that and making a living out of it, buddy. I love that.
Appreciate it. Yeah. It's fun, man. I mean, I enjoy it.
Well, I think we'll close this now, but you've opened up a new avenue in talking about the MLS and the players coming up. I think maybe we might have to schedule something again to talk, because, man, I really want to learn more about that and see how that's growing out of these youth leagues and in college and into MLS. So hopefully we can get you back on and we can chat again.
Hey, anytime. I would love to do it. And, you got my phone number. So these are always fun. I always like to just talk about football. So.
I love it. Well, thank you, my friend. Really appreciate the time. And you take care of yourself. Tell your wife I said hello. And thanks again from We Are Soccer.
Will do, man. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers, buddy. Thanks.